Hello, ladies and gentlemen. How is everyone? I need to get out of that habit. I hope you're doing well. Because you have no way of responding. But you can in the chat, actually. Really. All right, let's see if I can get in here. Join the space. How's it going, everybody?
What's up, Banana? Just give me a second to finish this post in our Telegram.
Yeah, I need to put one in there too, actually. Yeah, just a minute, everybody. Hey, Steve, OJ, blessed by the best. Thanks for what you do, man. You're welcome. Thank you for the appreciation. I dropped this link in the Telegram. Yeah. Oh. And there we go. Okay, cool. Two people in here. I'm finishing my supplement. Sorry.
All right. Well, I'm done and ready whenever you are, Banana.
Same here. How you doing, man?
Good. Another day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would say it's not a euphoria day.
I think the whole entire market is being a little bipolar in the last week. We've been bouncing up and down, but we've been using it to generate revenue, so you can't really ask for much more. Just use the volatility at the low prices to ultimately generate more rewards for holders, buy and burn more tokens at lower prices, and just become stronger as the market is at the lower prices.
Yeah, agreed. Bipolar. Yeah, the market is crazy. Like, crypto is so unpredictable. It's like I was saying earlier today in the chat. It's like everything is set up like perfectly. I don't know how it could be any better for everything to just pump, yet it's doing just the opposite. Somebody in another chat though said that it's he suspects it's the institutions holding the prices down so they can scoop up deals, and I don't know how they can do that. But I mean, do you have any idea how that people can suppress the price?
Big players definitely have the ability to manipulate markets and make markets, right? That's what I would say would be the best case scenario, is that they're just making the market and manipulating the market in their favor currently. But 100%, I don't think we could ask for much more. Trump is very pro crypto. He's coming out and writing tweets about how he plans on making huge reserves for the United States in Bitcoin, Ethereum, and altcoins and others, right? Where we can't really ask for a better situation. Like, what that tells me is technically we're going to be buying up crypto for the next 4 years.
Yes. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about the 4-year aspect. Yeah.
I would assume he would, set up his system, however he plans on doing this, being more of like a DCAing strategy, and it continuously be in effect his whole presidency. And hopefully the next president that gets elected just picks up where he left off.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting because, like I would never hand my wallets off to somebody else to manage. Not, I shouldn't say never, but yeah, definitely want to manage my own wallets. The president, on the other hand, is eventually going to have to do that in a sense. And
Well, it's not his wallets.
right.
I don't think he's handing his wallets to anyone.
Right. It's our wallets. But control of those wallets is what I mean.
Well, and there's going to be multiple people in control of them, not just Trump, or even if Trump, right?
Yeah. Yeah. A different administration.
Mm-hmm.
Different mindset, perhaps. Who knows?
But yeah, I don't really think we could ask for much more as far as a perfect setup. And so, but sometimes perfect setups, you fumble the ball, right? So you kind of have to be wary and be careful. But I do think just everything's looking in our favor right now. I think, the market either was front running it too much before he even came into presidency, and it needs to cool off a little bit, and then it will push after, a little bit of time goes on, or like you said, maybe the powers that be are manipulating it a little bit so they can put more wealth into their hands instead of it being into other hands.
Yep.
But that's one thing that, you don't always for sure know the answer. But what I find really nice about our system, what we have set up, is it doesn't matter if they're manipulating it down, manipulating it up, if humans are just being emotional and selling too low, or humans are being emotional and buying when there's a speculation at play, right? These are all the things that just happen in the markets day in, day out. And we do have a system that can utilize what is guaranteed in the markets as a utility and bring that revenue back to the protocol. And some days it's not super exciting, like right now, right? Like it's not tons of value right at this second, but it's a step in the right direction every single day.
Yeah. Well, I took a step in the right direction today, with pTGC being down against Pulse. We've been up at about 22 Pulse per pTGC. We're down at about, let's call it 17, 18, somewhere in there. So I took some of my UFO yield in Pulse because I have UFO LP'd, and I'm earning Pulse, and I flipped that into pTGC today, anticipating pTGC to go up against Pulse and achieve that previous all-time high. I'd probably go beyond that, but I was pretty happy to do that today, and I suspect that I'm going to be grateful that I did that in due time.
Yeah, I feel like the next time PulseChain goes on a nice little rip, and I won't lie, I kind of expected that rip to happen with such amazing news out of, RH being the SEC, and then obviously RH was putting some funds, like they traced some of those funds going into PulseX back to the OA address.
Right.
And I thought that was going to bring a little bit more pressure, but it got sold into pretty heavy. So what does that kind of tell us as an ecosystem? That kind of tells me a few people are still kind of worn out and weak-handed, and they're just looking to get out.
Yep.
Which is fine, right? It's free market, and if those are the levels they want to get in at or get out at, that's their decision. But ultimately, these are very, very low prices to get in at. So I guess if that's what has to happen, at least that makes it easier for RH to buy these people out, and the people who do believe in the long-term vision and are willing to be a little bit more patient will probably reap rewards easier once those people are out.
Yeah. And all along the way, the grays are just accumulating rewards because of the volatility. It's a beautiful system.
Yeah. So that pump up, and then we come back down. Everything was kind of moving together as a whole. So again, that's not like the ideal environment for this system, but it is an environment that we generate revenue off of. the best environment for our system is when one of the tickers makes a drastic move due to users finding a specific care in one of the assets, like when PDI moves, or if PHEX, for an example, took a big swing on its own for a specific reason. Or I felt like it was mostly favored in the pump towards PulseX and Inc. due to the fact that RH's funds, I believe, were going into PulseX, and then Inc.'s biggest pairing is with PulseX. But what we have to remember is for it to enter into PulseX from WETH, it technically has to enter into PulseChain first.
Right.
Because it's not a direct route of decent size to go from WETH to PulseX. So it does have to go the route, but then when it takes that route, the reflexivity takes place.
Okay. And I would just, whenever I've said this before, but whenever I notice that pTGC is pulling back a little bit, I always just go over to PulseChain, and I can see that PulseChain is pulling back a little bit, and it's no surprise. I mean, pTGC and UFO are so strong, but they're still going to move in reflexivity to Pulse, and further, to go further out. Pulse is a leverage play on Ethereum, which is a leverage play on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin right now is at $84,000. Ethereum is almost $2,000. This is $2,042 right now. It's about to break too.
Yeah, that's pretty low, right? Mm-hmm. Ethereum is very, very cheap compared to Bitcoin. It's a little bit surprising it's this cheap, but
me too. I'm surprised too.
But again, that kind of makes me feel very thankful that it's that cheap, because PulseChain is so connected to Ethereum due to us being a fork of it. And then on top of that, our main entrance to PulseChain is through Ethereum, through the bridge to PulseChain. And our main liquidity is with Ethereum, and Ethereum bridged over stable coins. So when you kind of look at that, you're like, okay, well, even the things PulseChain is bonded to and so connected to are super far down comparatively to where we think they should be in this point in the cycle. So what does that kind of tell you? Well, PulseChain is probably going to be a little bit more down.
Yep.
But then that means there's a lot of room up to go. When you're at the bottom, you have up to go. So is it the exact bottom? Who knows, right? Who knows? There could be a lot of red this month. There could be a lot of green, but where we are in the market, I think chances are, we have minimal downside, but maximum upside potential.
Mm-hmm. Ethereum hasn't been this low since January of 2024. So it's been about 14 months.
Yeah. Hunter, if you have a question, feel free to shoot it. I see you raising your hand.
No, that was an accident. I was trying to wave and just say hello. I just jumped in. I've been MIA for today.
Oh yeah, you're good. We'll take the wave too.
Yep.
Am I coming through loud and clear as well?
Yeah, we hear you.
All right, cool.
Yeah, so Banana, I don't know what you have on your agenda today, but RH was doing a little bit of tweeting today, which I found interesting, and I definitely think they're on topic. I don't know if we at some point have time to kind of go through some of that stuff today.
I think we can do it now.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got his Twitter pulled up. Let's see if I can spot one. Well, he says 5 hours ago, PulseChain is doing well in Ethereum over the last 8 months. Not as well as PulseX though. This is the WPLS WETH from Ethereum chart, and he posts the chart. And then 7 hours ago, he says, I won in court. Everyone else, not so much. Moses to dismiss versus SEC in court. Richard Hart, granted. Coinbase, denied. Binance, denied. Kraken, denied. Ripple, denied. Tron, denied. Terraform, denied. It's great that the SEC is dropping cases that should have never been started. Congrats. Some were denied only partially, like in Coinbase, the judge dropped the wallet charge. XRP beat the all tokens are securities rap, but lost on another charge and got a fine. Give respect where respect is due. Even better, make up for the years of abuse and mistreatment. We actually literally deserve it.
So I want to rewind a little bit and then hopefully get to that one as well.
Okay.
Or let's start with this one since this is one. I think that post is super important because it is such a huge accomplishment for Richard Hart, but since we're all huge community members of his, I'll also throw the accomplishment under our belt as well. Mainly it was his, but that's a pretty big deal, right? Like when he's listing these people that have gone up against the SEC and is denied, and his being granted, is it just timing in our favor, right? Did we finally get something that like happened timing wise that just all landed right with Trump coming into office right at the right time? And I think a little bit, but on top of that, I do think it's because he probably had to pay a lot of money for his team representing him, and the team he was representing him was the best you could get. So I think he did really, really good with lining those people up and setting himself up for success, obviously with his wordage and how he did the sacrifice and how he's launched Hex, PulseChain, PulseX. And what that really makes me feel good about is it makes me feel like we have someone that's really been thinking ahead and pre-planning every move. And even though we don't see the whole plan at this moment, and we don't know the whole plan or even have a remote piece of the plan, what's coming in the future, it does show me or tell me that there is a plan, and the steps that are being taken are pre-planned and thought out, not just darts at a board, right?
Right. Yeah. If I know anything about Richard Hart, he's a thinker, I think, and he premeditates his moves strategically. He has to.
Yeah.
He has to. He's a public figure.
Definitely. But just the fact that, granted on that item, and we actually did get that dismissal. Ultimately, we defeated the SEC, or RH defeated the SEC, is just massive for this community. And it's not showing right now. And I know it showed like instantly right when it happened, and now we've come down. But in the long-term process of this journey on PulseChain, right? The fact that now we are building a blockchain that literally has went to bat with the SEC in one. What that means for the future of PulseChain is massive. Maybe not instantly massive on the chart, but over the long run, I think it's going to be huge for the price of PulseChain, onboarding the PulseChain, just like adding to the level of growth PulseChain will have as far as a blockchain. I think it will very much in the future start to show what was done or what happened on Friday with the dismissal.
Yeah, it's only been 4 days.
Yeah, Crypto Rand was talking today about having Richard back on the show immediately, as soon as possible. It's the biggest marketing firm in crypto, finding Richard to come back on.
Is that a YouTube channel?
Yep, he was live streaming. B-Roots retweeted it today.
Okay, I'm going to look that up.
And like you said, man, it's pretty much one of the biggest, if not the biggest, or like it's up there, right?
Oh, I would consider Rand the biggest crypto shill on the planet, dude. He's got more of a following than anybody.
Yeah, and ultimately, if he's asking Richard to come back on, what that means is there's a line of probably hundreds of people wanting or wishing to do interviews with him. One of the things, and it just depends on if he wants to, is kind of the question, or if he can. You know, like I think a lot of people brought up the 20-day thing. There's a 20-day thing, so I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed quiet and kept doing for these next 20 days to just get it fully out of the way. Like that's what I kind of hope he does personally, and I think he's probably been told to, and he's smart enough to do, unless he just feels like he's in the clear no matter what. He just wants to come out. But I don't think we're in a rush at all, right? Like this has happened. We have time. Look at where Ethereum is. It's not like Ethereum's moving up and the markets are moving up and we're moving down. The markets are just not doing too hot today for people. But it is set up for one of the best success stories ever.
Okay, so that gentleman is Ran Nooner. He's got 935,000 followers. Let's see how many subs he has on YouTube. Let's see. 1.15 million subscribers on YouTube. Crypto Banter, that's his name. I've heard of this gentleman.
If I'm correct, B Roots was also on the show at one time.
Okay.
Yeah, you're definitely correct. I been on there and shilled Teddy Bear like at the bottom of Teddy Bear, and Teddy Bear just started pumping since that day. It's down. Teddy Bear's down a little bit now, but he pretty much went on that show at the bottom of Teddy Bear or on one of its big dips, and it instantly started not only increasing the price of Teddy Bear, but I believe PulseChain started getting some positive movement right at that time. It was a huge onboarding tool for PulseChain as a whole, as far as Teddy Bear being the main meme on chain. And B-Roots went on there and kind of brought that to their attention and educated people on PulseChain. I think he also made the call on there that PulseChain was going to flip Solana. It was definitely a fun, interesting stream B-Roots did.
B-Roots single-handedly brought more adoption in that 1 5-minute soundbite than the whole damn community in a year. I'm being facetious, but it was a very powerful thing that happened there.
Definitely. I forget what the holder count was on Bear before that, but I remember like glancing a couple days later and it was increasing dramatically really quick at that time. And I believe a lot of like the buys coming in weren't from people PulseChain. Like it was people coming over the bridge and getting it, which isn't just good for Bear, right? It's good for PulseChain as an entire community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so the point is that those type of invites obviously are now open to Richard and more importantly what Richard's built, which means that those opportunities open up to the community. It's just getting started.
And the funny thing is, Teddy Bear was the only coin that came off the Crypto Banner Show to this day that has actually profited. The only one.
Yeah, the other one shit the bed almost like the same week back
Were there any other tweets that you wanted to review, Zen?
Yeah, this one's kind of just like a fun talking point. A little bit of speculation to it. Some people thought it was kind of like an Easter egg, but if you want to go over it, it's kind of a fun topic. We can, if anyone else wants to chime in on it, we can too. Real quick, so I can't read the rest of your name. If you ever feel free to just interrupt and shoot.
Oh, it's Be So approved. Hey, what's going on, man? Thanks for bringing me up and everything. I just wanted to come up and say hi to everybody. I've been a holder of pTGC for a long time. Long time. Very happy about, the gains that we've been making. It's just been one of, coming in when Pulse first launched, and, it's one of those solid projects that, I looked into and I grabbed some. But a question, have y'all, do you have any ideas or as far as the future of, any projects that you're building or what you're working toward? And have you considered going to base?
As of right now, I definitely have not considered going to base. I personally believe my time and energy is meant to be here on PulseChain. I believe a prop like this would thrive possibly on other chains to an extent, but not to the extent of how much I believe it's going to thrive here on PulseChain. And as far as like what I want, even my personal time and name on, I think the best product as far as delivering is going to be here on PulseChain. It's gave us ultimately a Ethereum with forked with cheaper gas fees. It gave us a reset on some really, really great assets. And ultimately, we're on a chain that's done absolutely 0 X's from launch, ultimately. So I just think right now on PulseChain, we have max potential, and the story has yet to be told. I feel like we're still in the intro phases of PulseChain, and where I want to spend my time and the products I kind of want to put my name on are pTGC and UFO really on PulseChain. And I think this is just the beginning of them. And as we grow, as PulseChain grows, I think these two products are going to fill pretty much up my whole plate as far as time goes. And that's no disrespect to any other chain or anything. It's just, I just don't want to keep putting other things out and like dilute our community's funds into a bunch of other directions. I'm trying to speculate which one is the best one. And I do think PulseChain is where this product can really turn into a monster that could actually turn into a top 20, top 50 token in crypto, right? Like, yeah, we can release the product on other blockchains, and I think they do really, really well. But I don't think they would take like mainstream crypto by storm and catch a lot of people by surprise like I believe it can here on PulseChain. And that's kind of why it's just my main focus of just staying here on PulseChain and building here on PulseChain and supporting RH, someone that I feel like I've gotten a lot of knowledge from, and I really do believe that he's here for the people. And if I can help support that and like be mainly focused here on his chain, I hope that helps in some sort of way.
All right, thanks, man. Yeah, I was just curious and stuff. I've seen some products on base in particular. BankerBot is kind of similar to pTGC, a little different, but that's what I was asking. Thought if you just want to ask if y'all had any thoughts moving forward, because I mean, I think this project has the potential to really grow even larger, be even bigger. I digress.
Yeah, but I would say just to add to that conversation, the watering down of let's go to 49 different chains for whatever reason. You know, even in some of the people in the community here, you know, built things on PulseChain, and then it doesn't really go in your favor as fast as maybe you'd like. So let's start going to this chain. Let's start promoting that chain. Let's start deploying on this chain. I don't know anybody who's had any success from PulseChain's community that's done that, that's actually had real success on those other chains. Because it doesn't matter what chain you're on, you still have to have product market fit, sustainability, a product that people actually want to use. And if you're building products that are forcing you to compete with billion-dollar companies, that's a very hard proposition too. Right, so the solution isn't always to go jump to another chain. Especially when, for example, with pTGC, it's doing amazing. You know, it's doing amazing for the environment that it's in.
Well, you are correct on that. There is some. I don't want to shield on your space because this is your space, and I don't want to detract from what y'all doing.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Again,
It's
it
cool
doesn't.
with
It doesn't
y'all,
really matter what other things are doing on other chains, right? Other things can do well on other chains, right? But the question more is, does pTGC go to base or go somewhere else, right?
Yeah. Have it. Just any thoughts, any concern, any consideration of doing it. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing it up. It's something that like also was brought up like a year ago, right? Like someone's like, oh, you need to consider moving this to BNB was I think the one a year ago someone brought up, and they're like, you know, we know of a large community over there, you know, this could thrive over there, cheap gas fees as well, so on and so forth. But one of the biggest things I think with pTGC and UFO is the fact that we were able to create a web of $30 million at the bottom of the chain. And when I mean like the bottom of the chain is, I get that we could work in that direction and create that in BNB or base. But the truth is if PulseChain is even remotely successful, that's going to revalue this liquidity from $30 million to, you know, let's say a 10x of PulseChain, to $300 million of liquidity. And I personally still think that is one of the pieces of the formula of pTGC and UFO that no one has seen yet. And I don't mean like no one's seen here on PulseChain, like no one's seen that in crypto ever. And I don't mean just that much liquidity, but that much liquidity mixed with a grassroots product, with sustainability, with value generation, with scarcity, like hitting all these other boxes. It's just never been done before. And I personally believe PulseChain is the only place giving us the ability to get a real X multiplier on the growth that we can do on our own. But there is hurdles that comes with it, right? Like we are building in a city where there isn't a lot of people yet, but we're kind of looking around and we're looking at the environment and we're like, well, this blank lot, there's a beautiful ocean right here, there's beautiful mountains here, and we're kind of like, there can be a city here, you know what I mean? But you have to have some people that are willing to settle in that vacant land first and start building it, right? It takes those first settlers to really say, no, dude, this has got everything. This has got the beautiful ocean. This has got the, you know, the mountains, the trees, the food supply. This is everything that we're looking for in a brand new area. Now we just have to build an onboard to this city. And then what happens, and you're one of the pioneers, well, then you own all the land, liquidity, right? And I think that's just a huge benefit of being here early and being able to build a project, like you said, one of the first projects of decent size to launch on PulseChain a year and a half ago and really start something new, right? I think it's really easy to go to another city and say, wow, there's all these people I can tap into here. This might be a good place to put a business. But it's like such a different journey to say, wow, like no one's here yet. Like there's a few people, but this land is amazing. And there's so much opportunity here that these other places that are fully developed don't have.
I agree with you 100%. You know, I see a lot of value in what pTGC has done. You know, and when you create something that presents value, you know, people, you know, if you build it, people are going to come, right? Like feel the trends, right?
That's the goal. Yeah, that's the goal.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily negate, you know, that, you know, there's opportunity. And I'm not saying this is what you're nothing like that. I know you. I don't know if you're familiar with my PFP as a base OG. You know, I'm from the Grove. It's principally my home. I come from. I have, you know, bags over there also. We've been in the trenches working, you know, a whole lot. You know, I don't know if you've known we forked, not forked. We forked 9mm over to base, and it's just flying. You know, the opportunity, you know, the value that was presented over there, and people came and leaned in, not only from base but also from the Chia network, and you know, it's wonderful to see, you know, to find success, not just on PulseChain, but on another chain. And it's to the point where the 9mm token on base is about to flip the 9mm token on PulseChain in market cap. And still,
Yeah, I think that's also like a really amazing route as far as possibly educating people, or I'm trying to think of the word, but like putting possibly PulseChain in front of people's face that maybe wouldn't have given it a time in the first place, right? Like if they find out about you guys through base, and then they're like, oh, you know, this group of guys is super cool. These products are super amazing. Where are they from? And then they're like, oh, it's actually, you know, a group of people who are PulseChain people who are just kind of reaching out in other directions. And I think that's something amazing about PulseChain, and really something amazing about crypto in general, is two almost separate groups are actually still on the same team, just working two completely different angles on two different parts with almost the same common goal, right? Adoption to PulseChain as a whole. Also getting adoption to their single products and their single community as well. But even as others win around us, part of that success does come back to the chain, which helps us all win.
Exactly. The game community we look at ourselves as being chain agnostic, you know, because we don't apply to any chain, but we don't fade the chains that we're on either, you know, base or PulseChain. But we're trying to build something that presents with value, where people will see that value and opportunity and lean in, and that helps them to put eyes on what we're doing on PulseChain also. I know later on the idea is to bring all of the tokens in the Grove over to base on 9mm and pair that liquidity with, you know, other chains. You know, bonded liquidity, everybody rises, and, you know, to escape the matrix in the sense of having everything bonded to Ethereum or to PulseChain. So when the market turns down, you know, the value of the tokens that are on the DEX doesn't drop with the principal or base token, you know. So I mean, it's just an opportunity. I know if given the opportunity, I'm gonna bridge over, tokens to the 9 millimeter on base with my PulseTGC and create a liquidity pair with some of the tokens over there, so they have bonded liquidity. So people will know, well, hey, you have it here. You have it.
Is somebody speaking right now? Or
Yeah, you might not be able to hear them.
oh, okay. Look at your text, by the way.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Feel free to finish up real quick, but then we're gonna kind of keep on.
no, I'm done. I'm finished.
Okay.
I don't have much else to say.
But no, dude, I find that super awesome. I think there's definitely more than one way to skin the cat, and I feel as a whole of PulseChain, we're all kind of trying to attack different angles with still the overall the same goal in mind, right? And with us all taking these separate angles, maybe some work better than the others, but that's really not the point, right? The point is that we're all working for the same goal. And, if you guys are tackling something over there, that's awesome. And then, as far as the pTGC community and UFO, it sounds like you're in both, which is awesome, right? You're in both, you're tapping both. So win-win. If one of them succeeds, you win either way. That's super awesome. But, maybe we find a different way to onboard to PulseChain, a different way than your way. And when they come together, it's like, damn, this chain is like this beautiful land is really starting to develop into a beautiful city. And that's, I think, the goal of both communities. And I think that's important.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for coming up and just even giving the suggestion and, conversation.
I appreciate y'all, man. Thanks for letting me come up to the stage and, just talk, and talk to you about it. And so appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. See you, man. JD, I see you got your hand up if you're still there.
Hey, yes. Can you hear me, Zen?
Yeah, I hear you. How you doing?
Hey, good. Good, real good. Thank you for taking the time to let me come up, and also thank you for, putting these spaces on. I really appreciate all the knowledge and hard work. My question just, real quick, was wondering if you might be able to explain the X factor on the, the moon math calculator. I was wondering where that is derived from. Is it like an implied thing that is expected when pTGC rises against, say, like PLS, and really where that comes from, and how does it measure, if that makes sense? I'm just because like when I look at it, I don't know, should I put a 2 in or a 5 in realistically, and kind of where that comes from.
Yeah, so really it's an unknown, but where that X factor is coming from is how many X's you think pTGC will do against its paired assets, and how many X's you think those paired assets will do. So I usually just use PulseChain in general because everything is pretty much connected to PulseChain. So in your head, you can kind of say, I think, this cycle, or maybe you're looking out many cycles, right? But let's say you think in the next year, PulseChain has the ability to do a 20x. So then you're able to do a 20x multiplied by whatever x's you think pTGC could do from here against PulseChain. And let's say, for an example, since August 26th, we are currently up 17 to 18x. So maybe you think in the next year that's still possible, right? So then you would use a 17x of pTGC multiplied by the 20x of PulseChain. And then that would pretty much be the actual amount of X's that you receive as a pTGC holder. And that's one of the things about, what we were kind of just talking about, where I see a lot of value of being here on PulseChain is ultimately a lot of the other chains out there that I see being successful, have already done hundreds to thousands of X's. So those are actually hundreds of thousands of X's that we actually didn't get to take advantage of due to
us not being around, right, and really DeFi not being a thing when Ethereum first launched, etc., we never got to capitalize on those X's. So that means really there's a lot of X's that we are late on these other blockchains. But luckily, the opportunity that RH gave us was a reset on that clock. Not completely a reset, but a fair reset on that clock. And we haven't done any X's yet. So the fact is, an easier number to use. Let's say we do a 10x of pTGC in the next year against PulseChain, and let's say PulseChain does a simple 10x. Well, the beautiful thing of the X factor is now if you're holding pTGC is you just did a 100x. And in crypto with a sustainable project that has longevity, sometimes it's hard to do a 100x, especially. One second. Sorry, guys. So, in crypto, it is hard to find a sustainable project with tons of liquidity that can actually do 100x or 1000x, right? Or even more, depending how successful PulseChain is. But the opportunity that's kind of in front of us right here with PulseChain is super, super unique. The fact that we have such a well-running blockchain, such a decentralized blockchain, a blockchain that has ultimately crazy amounts of upside potential. We just don't know the quantity of that potential today. That could be potential just due to the mechanics that be, the fact that it has less of an inflation rate, the fact that there isn't a founder that has a foundation that he pays out with Ethereum or, tons of other reasons, right? The fact that there's a lot of tokens built by the same person that also have their own value and product market fit. There's the fact that the founder of this blockchain has money that he possibly might use to help increase the value of this chain. A lot of things that other chains actually don't do. It's a long list, actually. So you can't really pick a for sure number to plug in there, but what we have that calculator there is for each user to kind of think for themselves and think I do believe PulseChain is going to do this, and I believe pTGC, due to its buy and burn scarcity mechanics, can do against that as well. And you can kind of come up with your own numbers.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. That definitely helps. I appreciate the time and answering the question. Hope you have a blessed evening.
Yeah, did that actually explain it good enough? If you have any more questions. Okay.
No, it did definitely. That was an excellent explanation. That helps.
Yeah, one thing that I think really catches people off guard is a lot of times you would think, if PulseChain did a 10x and then pTGC did a 10x over that, let's say a 10x, you'd almost be like, oh, that's a 20x, right? I think for a lot of people that don't know what the X multiplier is, they don't actually realize that it's not an addition thing, it's a multiplication thing. And you actually are able to multiply the X's you do against the blockchain, which is a massive advantage for pTGC against other tokens on other blockchains, right? Because that's really who we're competing against as a whole as far as market share is. We're trying to become one of the top tokens in all of crypto, just not here on PulseChain. And that's a huge advantage with a successful PulseChain that we have.
Yeah, and there is obviously a pretty simple math equation that sets the rate of these two assets that are bonded in liquidity. It's a X times Y equals K. And you could just Google it, but the tools that are on the Moon Math calculator, they employ that algebra, that math, in terms of what those ratios are set for each token that are bonded in liquidity, and then if X amount of money comes into something, how that math will affect both that are paired. And that's excluding sell pressure. So it is just a general math equation built into the site that basically just reflects the math of how Uniswap was created to remove the need for order books.
Okay, yeah, that definitely helps. That, also just want to say thanks to Barry Banana. He helped me kind of understand that a little bit on his call yesterday too, and just really appreciate everyone's help. This is extremely helpful community, and really grateful to be part of it. Shout out to Coach X also. You guys are wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely trying to conquer it as a team. That's for sure. I just brought up someone, pTGC Stake, I think is your name. Do you have a question or a comment? Okay. If you hear me and you need to come up, feel free to interrupt at any time. And that goes for anyone else that's a speaker. Feel free to interrupt at any time if you have a question or comment. Gosh, I don't think did we get to his other? Oh, yeah. So the thing I wanted to get to with the Richard Hart tweets, if you want to, Banana,
Yep.
It's kind of a fun topic.
Sure.
Was it's kind of based off his tweet 5 hours ago, and then we'll scroll down to where this originally stems from.
Okay.
And I don't know if you saw this or not, so
I have the
let
one
me know.
from 5 hours ago where he posted the screenshot of the WETH chart.
So this is the PulseChain versus wrapped ETH chart.
Yes.
And you notice how in there he says not as well as PulseX though. So if you scroll down, how long ago is it? Okay, it's 1 day ago. So the title, or not the title, the first sentence is, "This is one of the best charts I've ever seen."
Okay, I got it.
So I don't know. It's just kind of a fun topic. If anyone else has any comments or conversations off of it or their own speculation, feel free to chime in. But what I find interesting about what he's showing here is this is ultimately the PLSX chart against PulseChain. And there's been a lot of talk more recently about PLSX hit, I think it's below it now, but hit parity with PulseChain just yesterday.
Right. Yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah, and then the second chart, he then starts kind of correcting it. So he was saying that chart was the PLSX chart against Ethereum, right? That's what it says in that paragraph. You can read it. But what that was is that was just the forked over WETH. That wasn't actually the bridged-in WETH. So the forked over WETH is actually just 1-to-1, and I believe in a way tradable with PulseChain if you know how to interact with that code, which part of me almost thinks like it's a little bit of an Easter egg, and I saw some people also commenting about that, and that's kind of why it's kind of fun and speculation, is if RH just made an honest mistake here. Because for me, there is some things kind of telling me that maybe it wasn't an honest mistake, because I would assume he studies these charts quite a bit and stares at them quite a bit, and that chart obviously looks like the PLSX to the PLS chart. So I don't know if he's bringing, for some reason, attention to the forked over wrapped ETH and how it has parity with Pulse and how it is, in a way, Pulse. But then later on the tweet, he shows the Pulse X chart against the actual bridged in WETH, or wrapped ETH, the bridged in Ethereum, which also looks amazing, right? So really at the end of the day, we can sit here and kind of complain sometimes and say the markets aren't doing what they're doing, but RH does have assets that are ultimately outperforming some of the biggest names in the game.
Okay.
Which is that second chart.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. So in the first tweet, he says, "This is one of the best charts I've ever seen. I've never shown it before. This is the PulseX price versus Ethereum chart. People that swap their ETH for PulseX are up 4.5x their ETH in 15 months. Look at how consistent it is. People bridge PulseChain.com, their ETH then swapped." And then in the second tweet, he says, "This is a better chart. I don't know why that first chart appears to be showing the PulseX Pulse pair when it clearly is indicating WETH, not Pulse in the top left corner. Software error, I guess."
And then there's a third one where he corrects that and says he figured it out.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the fourth in WETH.
Okay.
But yeah, so one thing I find very interesting about that chart against Pulse is, which it's pretty much PLS Pulse is really what that chart is. And you see how it's kind of just a slow trend up and to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to pTGC against Pulse, it's similar in a lot of ways, right? And I also find where we have a few more drastic movements, but that makes sense due to the fact that we are a lot smaller. We have a lot more of an adoption curve to go. We're a lot smaller cup, a lot less holders. There wasn't a big sacrifice where a lot of people got in for the exact same price or close to the same prices. So, but more importantly, what this shows me is just mechanically and mathematically, with a buy and burn and reflexivity built into a system, which these are both things PBC and PLSX have in common. They both have a buy and burn built into code. They both have reflexivity built into how just LP pools and how things are structured on chain. It is mechanically designed to keep moving upwards against the blockchain token.
Mm-hmm.
Because as the market trades back and forth, PulseX operates in the same way. As PulseX trades back and, or not PulseX, as the markets trade back and forth, no one has to buy PulseX. The markets, people can be trading wrapped Bitcoin on Pulse chains for wrapped Ethereum on Pulse chain, bridged in, you know what I mean? But they are going to buy and burn PulseX with every single one of those transactions.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very similar to how we operate, where just the market moves up and down. They have to interact with our pools. When they interact with our pools, it buys and burns our tokens, even if they didn't want to buy and burn our tokens, just because they need to fix prices within our system. And UFO obviously operates in the same manner. And one thing that I then find even more interesting on top of that is we're also bonded with PulseX very heavily with both assets. So we're not only getting the free reflexivity from Pulse Chain or Pulse, we're also getting a portion of PulseX's. We're also getting a portion of hexes. We're also getting a portion of inks. We're getting a mean of all of these things. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how all of this plays out. I believe I know mechanically how it's supposed to play out is things like PulseX will just continuously buy and burn itself and keep moving up in a fashion against the blockchain ratio-wise. But who knows? Once value starts getting pushed into Pulse Chain, and there actually starts to become some moves, I do believe things will start to get very, very interesting on chain.
Okay.
Also, Richard just tweeted 48 seconds ago, if you want to take a look at that.
He says Americans can click this link to easily remind their senators to vote yes to SJ Resolution 3 to protect DeFi tomorrow. Or if you don't like doxing yourself, you can call or email your senator directly, and there's a link. Yeah, that's a good idea. I like doing that. It's simple action that people can take. You know, one person taking action like that, on the other end, they understand there's about 500 people that won't. So the people that do, it's an impact. It's impactful on the other side. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
And I do believe Richard is the only one who's actually brought this matter up.
Yeah, it's just amazing how awesome Richard Hart is within the crypto space, guys. You know, his win is a slam dunk, grand slam home run, not just for PulseChain and for the community, but for all of cryptocurrency, for all of the coders and developers out there that are creating software, and it's a massive precedent that was set in a federal court, right? And he's been talking about this stuff forever. And you're right. I didn't even know about that until just now. You'd think that this would be being pushed out to everybody, not just a day in advance, though, right? But everybody would kind of already be in the know about that. It's just so funny, man. Richard's on top of it.
But also, too, that's going to get into a lot of people's eyes. And, all it takes is one person to do this and tell their friend. And it's just a snowball effect after that.
Yep. I've signed a few of these Stand with Crypto organization action items. I just signed this one. I'll repost it too.
All right, what's next on the agenda, Banana? If anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to come up and just add to the conversation.
Well, let's review some market metrics.
I'm eating dinner, by the way, so you know why I'm being so quiet.
Okay, who is that? Coach?
No, it's just Hunter. I normally chime in and stuff, but I'm eating dinner right now, so I can't really chime right in.
Yeah.
I like where you guys are going with this.
Okay.
Oh, God, I forgot Mitch McConnell's our senator.
Well, the volume for the last 24 hours on pTGC was 214. Oh, no, it's 215,000. I like to round up. $215,000 in volume on pTGC, $147,000 in volume on UFO. And we had in pTGC, there was $10,700 in fees collected and distributed in the last 24 hours. And then in UFO, it was $8,800 of fees collected and distributed. And of course, that's used for adding LP, buying and burning tokens, and rewarding holders. And we are, how many X's? pTGC is 15 X's away from a penny. UFO is 196. What else?
Yeah,
go ahead.
One thing that I've been kind of recently, and I think we talked about this on Saturday, but I'll bring it up just because sometimes on Monday nights we have a little bit of a different crowd, was the fact that we've seen PulseChain hit these low levels, pretty much the bottom, right? This is pretty much the third time PulseChain has run into these bottoms. pTGC, this is the third time we've seen it. UFO, this is the second time we've seen it. And the first time, and this is a few months after the launch of pTGC, is when we ran into these low times. PTGC went and did like a 45x on that run of PulseChain. And I believe PulseChain did roughly a 4 to 5x in this run. But the interesting thing about that is they both roughly consolidated the same amount, right? They both retraced the same amount. So roughly 60, 70, 80%. I don't recall what it was, but they both had a healthy retracement. And the thing is, PulseChain round tripped back to the low levels, but pTGC, because of its mechanics, was able to retrace to a new high, right? And it found a floor at where PulseChain found its floor at that 0.00003 again. And then that low, and that brought actually a discount to the pTGC tokens. And then PulseChain started moving back up again, and pTGC was able to make another run of roughly a 40 to 50x. And in that time, I don't think PulseChain even did a 3x in that run. But again, everything then consolidated again. It retraced again. And PulseChain came back to these levels. And pTGC consolidates and retraces a little bit, just due to just naturally how the market goes, right? It's bonded with PulseChain, but it's still making a higher floor than the previous one. So, looking at the past is definitely no guarantee of the future, but we can study it and we can make educated guesses. And, I personally believe that those two past incidences aren't a coincidence, right? Because we also saw this exact same situation happen with UFO. UFO launched. After launch, it didn't launch at the lows. PulseChain went and consolidated and went to pretty much these low levels. This is one low level ago. And when PulseChain started waking up, UFO woke up at the exact same time. And UFO also did a 40 to 50x in this movement. And what we've seen is every time PulseChain wakes up, volume and volatility and liquidity increases within our system because the volume, volatility, and liquidity is increasing on the things we're connected to. And when that event happens, it turns our system on. And when it decreases, it doesn't turn our system off, but it kind of, goes a little bit into idle mode. And what does that idle mode actually equal? It equals opportunity for anyone who takes advantage of it. You don't have to take advantage of it. You can obviously get in at any time. If you got in a long time ago, you don't need to take advantage of it, or maybe you'll never take advantage of it. But what I'm bringing up is that there's been 2 times in the past where we have consolidated along with PulseChain as the whole entire market, or the whole entire market is consolidated. But anyone who has taken advantage of those opportunities has ultimately made a great move in the last 2 occasions.
Mm-hmm.
And didn't round trip back to the same prices in that huge move, because a lot of times, even if something moves, if it round trips and you end up right in the same spot and you didn't make any APY going up and down, you literally just did a 360, right? You went in a complete circle. But one thing I find unique about our system is even in a completely round trip, if you go up to a high market cap and come down to a low market cap, you don't actually end up in the exact same position. You have a lot better distribution. You earned APY on the ups and downs, and there's less tokens in circulation. So you'll sometimes see in our chat like, hey, we're just getting stronger at this low levels. Like, I personally couldn't agree more. When we have a little bit of a pullback, and especially when I see that it's due to the whole market pulling back, I look at this as opportunity for new users to come in and get a nice discounted price, like a lot of people say they're looking for when our chart is green, hitting all-time highs. They're saying, hey, I'm going to wait for a pullback. Well, the truth is these pullbacks are ultimately here right now. And the last 2 times, if you took advantage of it, you've done decent is kind of what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
But that's no guarantee. Obviously, this is crypto. It's the riskiest thing out there. I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention and to say, hey, PulseChain's at these bottoms for the third time. And we've witnessed what this machine does at these bottoms. Just buys and burns supply, pays APY, consolidates, redistributes. But when PulseChain starts to wake up, which we have to tell ourselves is, when do you think the real PulseChain waking up time is going to come? I personally, and this is, I have no idea. This is my guess. Is this next time PulseChain wakes up, it might be a lot different than the previous two times. It might not stop at a 3x, 4x, 5x. It might head to a 10, possibly 20, possibly even higher x. And if the machine has operated in the environment that hasn't been in favor of this machine as well as it has to date, I'm just very interested to see what this machine actually does when the environment starts to turn in its favor and go to some of the high points in its favor that we've seen in the past, but not even just these high points that we've seen in the past, like the old all-time highs of PulseChain 0.000 or 0.0002. But what if it does another 5x on top of that this next run? What's that machine going to look like there? And this might be one of the last times to enter into an ecosystem like this ever, like in crypto ever. RH giving this opportunity, there never might be another system like what RH has delivered here with a DeFi protocol like pTGC built on this system. Like, a lot of things are lining up that just might not ever line up again, is the truth. Probably won't line up again.
Well, honestly, it seems like every time, PulseChain has a pullback and pTGC has a pullback, it just comes back stronger than before.
Yeah, and that's kind of part of it, right? Is with this system is every time it pulls back or consolidates, it's making the foundation stronger for the future holders. If people are buying in, if people are exiting out, portions of those transactions, even if just the market's moving and arbitrage bots are fixing those prices, a portion of every transaction is going to the sustainability of the system. It's going to LP. It's going to buyback and burns. It's going to APY to the long-term holders, making it so the emphasis isn't always on the effect today, but the effect tomorrow, right? It's looking also out for the new user that's coming in today, not just the user that entered in a year ago when Banana came in, which it's also looking out for the Banana that entered in a year ago. But we have to remember, you have to also be paying attention and create a sustainable environment for Banana a year ago, but also for the guy, that Banana might onboard tomorrow. Because we want to also make sure the environment has the strength to withstand the growth after that guy as well. And for sure, there is going to be the micro cycles that we've seen so far. We haven't seen a full cycle of how this machine actually reacts to literally a bear market, but we have seen how it reacts to micro cycles. We've actually seen PulseChain go up and come back down to literally ground zero 3 times now. But we've seen that every single time that happens, we've made higher highs. We've made a stronger floor. We redistributed funds. We built up our DAO. We paid APY. So
way more holders, way more distribution, way more liquidity.
Which at the end of the day equals exactly what we're talking about. It creates a stronger foundation for the people entering in today. The people that are entering in today are entering into a system that has $30 million in liquidity, when Banana entered in, there wasn't no $30 million in liquidity to back what he was getting into.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't a community that was doing spaces every Monday and Saturday and VCs in Telegram, and and there wasn't a vault or not a vault, the DAO that has 5 billion PulseChain actually sitting in it at the moment. There's a lot of things that are starting to line up, and it's lining up, creating what we're saying is more of a sustainable environment for the users coming in today, the users coming in tomorrow, hopefully the users coming in a year from now, right? 2 years from now, 3 years from now, because every single transaction is going to make it more sustainable. It's kind of like, when you're trying to stack up something really, really tall and you just try to stack every piece on top of each other. Yeah, you're going to get up higher quicker, but eventually that whole thing's going to come crashing down because it's too tall and skinny. But if you actually take some time and you start building the base out first and you slowly work your way up, and then you sometimes rebuild the base back up again and work on the base a little bit before you keep going further, the building doesn't come crashing down. You can actually keep growing it infinitely because you're constantly refocusing on the base of the structure before focusing on the height of the structure. You have to always focus on the foundation before the tip of the structure.
Well, Hayden, it's if you just zoom out and just look at where everything started from, and this is a triple bottom on PulseChain. On the first bottom, pTGC is currently up 90,000% from that first bottom. And then from that second bottom, it's up an 11x from that 90,000%. And now we're on this third bottom, and we're sitting at just under $200 million market cap. PulseChain is still on its ass, right? At the same exact place it was, but we're not at $1 million market cap now. We're not at a 5 million. We're at a $200 million market cap now with PulseChain on a triple bottom. So because of reflexivity and the way that works, you can speak to this, but unless PulseChain is going to go for a new all-time low, right? And unless some larger players want to get rid of their positions in pTGC, what does this represent? Now, this is all speculation, but unless PulseChain goes to a new all-time low and breaks that triple bottom kind of resistance level down there, to me, this represents the bottom. Because the system is taking in billions of PulseChain. It's buying and burning with every transaction. Anybody who wanted to take profits could have. There's been people taking profits to go here, to go there, to cash out, to go over this new freaking carrot or this new carrot, whatever. But the system's at a $200 million market cap. It's got amazing amount of liquidity in it. You're literally it's a 90,000% times an 11x from the first bottom, and the system is just running beautifully, right? So it's one of the ways that I've always determined where I thought the bottom was at. I've been pretty damn spot on with that, just by looking at the value and the price of the things that are in our liquidity web. And if those things that we're bonded to are on their ass and on the floor, unless those things are wanting to go to new all-time lows, in general, that represents the next bottom buying opportunity. But it's very impressive that we're there on a triple bottom of PulseChain, Richard just winning a case full stop, and the system's at a $200 million market cap. I just want to just say that because we can get disillusioned real quick in crypto, chasing shiny objects, but in reality, it's the sustainability, it's the transparency, it's the trustlessness, it's the liquidity, it's the decentralization, it's the security of the system, it's the predictability of the system. You can see what the system is doing, you can see how the system is delivering, and you can see over a time frame where it's at based on the things that it's bonded to. All these things are very important if you're looking for something legitimate and real that you can really sink your teeth into, as opposed to whatever else you could be looking at. I think on PulseChain it's just a no-brainer to be staring at that information right now. 17.72 to 1 against Pulse. So it's up so much against PulseChain. But it obviously took a ton of X's to get it up to a 1-to-1 ratio. And now it's up at a 17.7x against Pulse on top of that. There's nothing on PulseChain like it.
Yeah, I think you brought up a good topic as well, Mando, when you said, look at the pairs that pTGC is bonded with and where those are at in their cycle as well. Pretty much everything that we're bonded at are like in deep bottom areas, to where if any of those decide to turn around here in the next future or near future, we obviously get rewarded off of that drastically. And what that means to me is our system has been walking up an extremely down escalator for quite some time and has performed very well even with that going on. If even just a few of the assets turn in the favor of this asset, not only will this machine run even stronger, but it'll also appreciate the price just due to X multiplier or Hart's law.
Well, what you just said is very important, because if you invert the chart against PulseChain and you keep in mind that you're having to constantly run up a down escalator. But when you look at pTGC against PulseChain, it's been upward of almost 23 to 1. But to get there, Hayden, we had to do way more X to get to that 1-to-1 initially, right? So we forget and we stare at a 17 to 1, but in reality, the amount of X that it took to get to 17 to 1 was way more than 17.42. It was hundreds. I don't even know. It was a lot, right? But the fact that you can stare at a chart against PulseChain that's currently holding at almost basically an 18 to 1 at a triple bottom of PulseChain, and knowing that it was doing that, basically swimming upriver the whole time. What happens when the tide changes and you literally are getting just taken downriver? You're no longer swimming upstream. You're literally just sailing away into the sunset because the river went the opposite direction with you now. What happens to the charts then?
More than 4,000 X's to get from where it started to 17 PLS per pTGC. 4,000.
Yes, there you go. So we're talking, over 4,000 X, guys, from the onset to where it's currently at right now against PulseChain, to go from where it was a 5060 something to where we're at currently right now, and doing it in a very unfavorable environment and swimming upstream the entire time. And the thing I like about it, and maybe you can talk about this because I wrote this in my notes a little bit. Maybe you can talk about this, but the prominence and the positioning of pTGC, right? The powerhouse that pTGC has become on PulseChain, the prominence of it, the constant use of its name, right? The constant, they want to be like pTGC. They want to say they're like pTGC. They want to whatever it is. Like it just never runs out. It's a massive compliment, but it speaks to something deeper, right? It's not just PvP. And there's a reason why, even though there's been so much of that, you have such an amazing cryptocurrency that's sitting at a $200 million market cap at a triple bottom on PulseChain, right? And it's that awesome kind of, we've been able to really witness something super interesting with this thing. And look at how this machine actually works. Now, if I'm going to put a lot of money into something, it has to be transparent, right? It has to be transparent. I have to understand it. It has to be secure. It has to be decentralized. I can't have people controlling and changing things around. There has to be basic fundamentals there for me to really, if you want something for the longevity, sustainability, longevity. And so you have 18 months of watching this machine and watching it do thousands and thousands of X against the blockchain and just performing amazingly. But the entire time, outside of just a short couple of pumps, you're swimming upstream. But every time we've had just a nominal pump, it's like we've seen before. Pulse does a 4x, we've done a 40x. Yeah. It's astronomical. I agree with you, Hayden, that it's right now, after Richard just won that case, it's any blip to the upside. And we kind of just witnessed it just right there, even though it got sold back down, right? I mean, it just instantly zipped back up to over 300 million, just like that.
Yeah, that's an easy reminder, right? Like you see PulseChain bump up 50%, instantly pTGC and UFO bump up 50%, and also offer APY and become more scarce with every transaction getting there. I don't know. I'll keep this part short, but when you said, crypto is already a very PvP place, which obviously stands for player versus player, I think it's became very obvious that it's PvPTGC. And when I say PvPTGC, it's pretty much anyone who didn't grab a bag of pTGC is now trying to replicate it or take the idea or try a different version of it in some sort of way. And really the funny thing about that is it is PvPTGC, because I think, the whole idea that we've spoken about, obviously people didn't believe it at first, or they would have grabbed a bag, but it's became quite obvious that this has become one of the most sustainable systems that have ever existed in crypto. And some might not notice this, but I stare at plenty of transactions, probably way too many than I need to, on buys and sells in pTGC. And the sad truth is, if you take away all the P from the PvPTGC, not one project, hundreds of projects trying to replicate the system, 99 of them usually not doing what they promised they're going to do, our chart would probably be at a $1 billion market cap right now. And everyone within the system would have a lot more value. But the truth is there's always a shiny object and someone else making a different promise to you. And they're all just ideas based off an idea that this team has kind of developed on our own. We didn't need to copy a specific person. Spent years coming up with the idea before it even came out. I hope at some point people start to respect that a little bit more, because it does get old when it's PvPTGC every day of your life. But, at the end of the day, I've witnessed a lot of people exit their bag into that P, and pTGC's machine has just left them behind. And it's quite sad that they just get left behind. But the thing is you can try to mimic the idea, but there's a few things you can't mimic with just copy paste code or telling people an idea that you're this next this or you're the next that. There's a really, really strong community of people here that believe in the first one. And there also is a liquidity web of over $3 million.
30 million.
Or yeah, 30 million, sorry. $30 million. With just a simple 10x of PulseChain, that's $300 million. If, let's say someone had a project with 3 million to date, sounds pretty awesome, right? That's a decent liquidity pool. Well, at a 3x or at a 10x of PulseChain, you have to remember that's still 30 million, right? That's what the system was able to create at the bottom of PulseChain with nothing, with an idea that ultimately most didn't even believe in from day one. But now it's the hottest trend, not only on PulseChain, but I now see people coming in saying it started something on Solana now, as far as a fee on transaction movement. And yeah, that's really about it. I think that, you know, pTGC and UFO have proven an idea that most thought at one time was impossible. To create a system that wasn't dependent on human interaction, to create a system that's benevolent and gives back to its community, create a system where actually everyone within the community can win. And it doesn't need to be a PvP place all the time. It can actually get back to the grassroots community aspect of what crypto could have been or should be, and can be.
Well, Zen, I'll say this, right? It's always been like that, even before PulseChain or anything. It's always been if you launch something and it's successful, even with the memes, you have one dog meme, it's successful, and you have 10 spin-offs within 15 minutes launching in live new pairs, right? So it's not like it's a new thing. But for me, the biggest thing is I like dependability and reliability. I like security. I like transparency, right? I like to be able to see a system just do what a system does. I like simplicity over complexity. I love the community. I think that the ability to garner that much capital at the bottom sets the stage for an empire to be built. So it doesn't really matter what other, bright stars hang in front of me. The system keeps doing what the system does, right? And there's no reason for me. It's more attractive to me in an environment where 99.99% of things that are promised to you fail, or they don't work out, or there's bad spec, or there's bad code, or it changed over here and they did it over there and it changed over here. The thing I like about the Grays is that it's immutable code. It's a finished product. It works perfectly. It works flawlessly, and it's outperforming everything consistently. And it has the value, and it has the liquidity, and it has the APY that's from volume, not inflation, and it's got the burns. It's making my tokens more scarce. And I love the fact that it's the one. It's the one that started it all. It's the one that has all the respect. It's the one that has everybody saying, we're the next one of those. We're the next one of those, right? There's a provenance there. There's a position there.
It's the underdog.
It's not the underdog. It's the exact opposite of the underdog. It's the exact opposite of the underdog. Yeah, it pioneered the entire thing. But it's amazing because what Zen said is true, right? You can have a lot of people leave the system chasing other things, going after the PvP situation. But when you track the wallets, the large majority of those people, they lost all their damn money. And it really sucks. You know? So I would say this, I'll just say this, now I'm going to mute for a few minutes, but know where you are. I always say know what you own, when you own, and why you own. Right now, it's very important that you know when you own. Because if you're at the bottom of PulseChain after a full dismissal of Richard Hart's ecosystem on a triple bottom with the entire cryptocurrency market falling into a bear trap in the middle of a bull run, you might want to not be chasing promises. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm pretty much running on to the time too. Try to keep these at an hour and a half. Unless anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to come up.
No, man, that was good. I mean, pTGC is the anvil, right? It's the indestructible piece of equipment, and that everybody comes to and gets beat up on, and they get all beat up and bent out of shape and all that. But pTGC is that anvil that just gets beat on year after year, and basically holds its form and is unshaken.
Yeah, man. And you know, right now in these moments where we just kind of just do our thing on, just kind of, when you hit a bottom like this on PulseChain, and it just kind of just sitting there oscillating again, just kind of, here we go. You know what it's doing, Prairie.
Mm-hmm. It's winding up. We just got to be patient and on board.
That's a consolidation nation right there.
That's exactly what is happening. It's that GIF that I always post of that magma building up at the bottom of the volcano.
All good things come to he who.
Yeah, so if everyone's good, I'll be shutting it down. But if anyone has any questions or comments, feel free to just shoot them right now. But if not, I'm going to spend some time with the family.
I just want to say thank you. Thank you guys for holding this space, and keep it up. Keep up that hard work. Keep doing what you're doing. We're all here. We got your back. We love it. Thank you very much.
Guys, I'll say this and we can get off. If you were ever going to share, if you were ever going to talk to your peers, to your friends about crypto and about PulseChain, it would be right now. We just won the case. We're scotch-free. We have no wet blanket over our ecosystem. You can't win any harder. It's as legit as it can get. If you were ever going to talk to people about PulseChain, do you want to tell them at the bottom or do you want to tell them at the top? All right, man.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for coming up, Mando. Thanks for sharing. Banana, thanks for co-hosting with me. Coach, thanks for coming up as well. Chris, JD, Hunter, I don't see who else was up. I forget some of the names, but everyone else, thanks for coming up and sharing and contributing to the conversation.
Yeah, guys. Thank you for hosting the space, Zen.
Yeah, no problem. I'm happy to do it. I'm happy to educate. I'm happy to rant. happy to talk with you, Banana, and have the conversation. So everyone who's in here just listening, thanks for coming in, listening, and supporting. It means a lot to me. And I do believe that PulseChain's time is coming. I think we've had, again, I've been saying this for the last month, but the last week has been so entertaining. So much new stuff's been going on. Like, literally, we've just been saying that every week now. So it's like we have inflation cuts, we have all these things going on. Now we're beating the SEC. Like, dude, this stuff's getting wild. And the price is just still such a discount, which, again, is just opportunity. And the question you're going to kind of ask yourself is, did I take advantage of that opportunity, or did I let that opportunity just go by? Obviously, this is crypto. This is speculative. So don't be going and putting in too much than you can afford to lose. But there is a lot of things lining up to create possibly one of the best opportunities to change your family's life, if all works out, and possibly one of the last opportunities to change your family's life. There's becomes very few opportunities like this, I think, in most men's or women's lifespan. And I just think it's lucky enough that we've all found our way somehow here, you know, in these spaces, talking about a token that ultimately no one on planet Earth knows about, on a blockchain that no one knows about, and in crypto, which like 5% of the people on Earth know about. And that can change very, very quickly. We have a president tweeting about it constantly. We have him to start making huge moves within the government to make crypto mainstream. And, you know, let's hope and let's do our due diligence to put PulseChain at one of the leading front ends of that, right? As one of the main blockchains that exists for users to actually win, right? Not be taken advantage of, and be in a nice decentralized place with self-custody and possibly change their lives as well.
Well said.
Cool. Yeah. Okay, guys. You have a good night.
You too, Zen.
See ya.
And he's out. Perry Banana's about to be out too. Hey, if you guys are going to be at the, if you're going to be at the PulseChain conference, don't be offended if I don't recognize you. You guys recognize me. You know what? Please come up and say hi if you're going to be there. I want to meet as many people as I can. I have never met a Hexakin, a Pulsekin, anybody akin. And I am super excited about it. So, well, guys, I'm going to head to the house. May you all have a great evening. And I will not be on Spaces Saturday, but I will be next Monday. So, because I'm going to Las Vegas this week. All right, guys, have a great evening and a great week.